ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Bhagavad Gita chapter 1st verse number 9। अन्यच बहवः शूरा मत अर्थे त्यक्त जीवितः नाना शस्त्र प्रहरणाः सर्वे युद्ध विशारदाः। There are many other heroes who are prepared to give up their lives for my sake. All are equipped with varieties of weapons and are expert in warfare. So Duryodhan, after mentioning the name of several heroes, tells his commander-in-chief, Guru Dronacharya, that besides these, there are several other heroes such as Jayadratha, Kritvarma and Shalya, all of whom have resolved to give up their life for the sake of Duryodhan. Among these, Jayadratha is a main character in Mahabharata. Jayadratha was the king of Sindhu kingdom. He was also the brother-in-law of the Kauravas, as he was married to Dushala, who was the only sister of the 100 Kaurav brothers. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in his commentary on verse number 16th of the 15th chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, gives a brief description about Jayadratha as follows. Jayadratha was another son of Maharaj Vridhkshetra. He was the king of Sindhu Desh, which is the modern day Sindh in Pakistan. His wife's name was Dushala. He was also present in the Swayamvar ceremony of Draupadi, and he desired very strongly to have her hand, but he failed in the competition. But since then, he always sought the opportunity to get in touch with Draupadi. While he was going to marry in the Shalya Desh, on the way to Kamyavan, he happened to see Draupadi again and was too much attracted to her. The Pandavas and Draupadi were then in exile after losing their empire in gambling, and Jayadratha thought it wise to send news to Draupadi in an illicit manner through Koti Sashya, one of his associates. Draupadi at once refused vehemently the proposal of Jayadratha, but being so much attracted by the beauty of Draupadi, he tried again and again. Every time he was refused by Draupadi, he tried to take her away forcibly on his chariot, and at first Draupadi gave him a good dashing, and he fell like a cut root tree. But he was not discouraged, and he was able to force Draupadi to sit on the chariot. This incident was seen by Dhaumya Muni, and he strongly protested the action of Jayadratha. He also followed the chariot, and through Dhatreka, the matter was brought to the notice of Maharaj Yudhishthir. The Pandavas then attacked the soldiers of Jayadratha and killed them all, and at last Bhim caught hold of Jayadratha and beat him very severely, almost dead. Then all but 5 hairs were cut off his head, and he was taken to all the kings and introduced as the slave of Maharaj Yudhishthir. He was forced to admit himself to be the slave of Maharaj Yudhishthir before all the princely order, and in the same condition he was brought before Maharaj Yudhishthir. Maharaj Yudhishthir was kind enough to order him released, and when he admitted to being a tributary prince under Maharaj Yudhishthir, Queen Draupadi also desired his release. After this incident, he was allowed to return to his country. Being so insulted, he went to Gangatri in the Himalayas and undertook a severe type of penance to please Lord Shiva. He asked his benediction to defeat all the Pandavas, at least one at a time. Then the battle of Kurukshetra began and he took sides with Duryodhan. In the first day's fight, he was engaged with Maharaj Drupad, then with Virat, and then with Abhimanyu. While Abhimanyu was being killed, mercilessly surrounded by 7 great generals, the Pandavas came to his help. But Jayadratha, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, repulsed them with great ability. At this time, Arjun took a vow to kill him, and on hearing this, Jayadratha wanted to leave the war field and asked permission from the Kauravas for this cowardly action. But he was not allowed to do so. On the contrary, he was obliged to fight with Arjun, and while the fight was going on, Lord Krishna reminded Arjun that the benediction of Shiva upon Jayadratha was that whoever would cause his head to fall on the ground would die at once. Actually, Arjun had taken a vow that if he was not able to kill Jayadratha before the sunset, then he would commit suicide. So Dronacharya created 3 different chakra vyuhas to protect Jayadratha so that it will be impossible for Arjun to penetrate those vyuhas and reach Jayadratha. Jayadratha was hiding behind Dronacharya. It was almost sunset and there were still thousands of soldiers between Arjun and Jayadratha. At that time, Shri Krishna, who is the protector of his devotees, sent his Sudarshan Chakra to eclipse the sun. Everyone thought that the sun has set, and then they started rejoicing that now Arjun will commit suicide, and they disbanded their Chakravyuha formations. At that point, Shri Krishna withdrew his Sudarshan Chakra and the sun started shining again brilliantly in the sky. Krishna then pointed to Arjun, Jayadratha, who had come out of the hiding behind Dronacharya, and reminded him also of this particular boon that Jayadratha had, that whoever will chop his head and make his head fall to the ground, that person's own head will be hit and divided into 100 pieces. So reminding this to Arjun, Shri Krishna told him to hit Jayadratha in such a way with an arrow that his head will fall in the lap of his father. As this was the almost time of sunset, Jayadratha's father Vridhakshetra was performing his evening puja and was sitting with his eyes closed. At that time, Arjun hit Jayadratha with an arrow, and that arrow took his head, and that head fell in the lap of Vridhakshetra, his father. Not knowing whose head was it or what object was it, he immediately threw it onto the ground. So Srila Prabhupada ji concludes that this was actually done by Arjun. Jayadratha's father was surprised to see a severed head on his lap, and he at once threw it to the ground. The father immediately died, his forehead being cracked in 7 pieces. So like this, by the mercy of Shri Krishna, Arjun was able to kill both Jayadratha as well as his father. In this particular verse, there is a word used called Tyakta Jivitaha. Tyakta jivitaha means soldiers who are bound by a vow to give up their life. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very beautifully explains the meaning of this, that this phrase denotes a person who is determined to do whatever is required of him, having properly realized that he will be greatly benefited whether he survives or not. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in the 11th chapter, in verse number 33, Krishna tells Arjun, Maya ev ete nihataha purvam eva nimit matra bhav savya sachan. He tells Arjun that get up and prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. Why? Maya ev ite nihata purvam eva. All these soldiers are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Arjun, O Savya Sachan, just be an instrument in the fight. So Krishna is telling Arjun, we will discuss this later when we come to the 11th chapter in greater detail, that I have already killed all these soldiers because I, in the form of eternal time, in the form of Kal, have already vanquished these soldiers. So don't think that you are the one killing them. All you have to do is to become simply an instrument in my hand to carry out this act of annihilating these demoniac kings. So Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that in accordance with this statement, Saraswati Devi made the word Tyakta Jivitaha come from the mouth of Duryodhan, indicating that his army had already been destroyed. So even though Duryodhan was thinking that his warriors are very powerful and would be able to ensure his victory in this battle, but the words that he used indicated that in one sense all these warriors are about to lose their life. However, Duryodhan thought otherwise about the power of his army compared to the power of the army of the Pandavas. So what he thought, we will discuss this in the next verse. Till that time, Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe. Have a very blessed day.